What's going on, guys? Welcome to Brandon Rebel Garage number 2. I'm not going to keep track, so forgive me. Tonight we do not have Colin. He's going to be out of town for the weekend. So on either probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday the latest, we'll be going down to the machine shop with his rotating assembly so we can get this thing going. We need, like I said, like what we said in the last video, we need the valve, the events on the camshafts so we know exactly what the hell that thing is, because we don't even know what the hell it is. But it is going to be nice to finally get a rotating assembly in it, you know, check our clearances and whatnot, make sure everything's okay. Tonight, we'll be working on the Camaro a little bit, length for the fuel cutoff cable, and going to go over like a wiring diagram. Once I get it drawn out, I'll actually be able to show you guys where all the boxes go. There's a handful of boxes that's going to be needed to make this car work and function. Old school stuff, you know, magneto, old Vertex mag. So what might be the common norm, you know, nowadays, this is old-fashioned stuff, but it works great nonetheless. And if I do have enough time left, I'll see about doing a kind of a rundown on a barrel valve and how that works. Kind of give everybody a rough idea, because TikTok only allows me to do like a minute-long videos, so it'd be nice to do a little bit extra for you guys. And we're just going to go from there. So here's a quick little look at the boxes. I do not have the paperwork right in front of me at the moment, so I can tell you what each and everything does. Basically, this is going to be set up as he's going to have a 2-step for a trans brake, and then an over rev for the motor. Spin around here. These are the fuse boxes that we used. And try to make it as easy as possible so you can come in and service everything electrical with this car. If he's anything like me, he's not going to want to get in here and bend over and bust your back trying to actually get to anything. So the wiring is probably going to be ran down this panel right here. And if you ever puts the, I think it's called a step plate, over this, it'll actually cover it. But if not, it'll be tucked down inside this rail. That way it won't get to him at all. And the cable, the lean out cable, it's essentially going to be coming down and probably tucked up along here somewhere. Might need to put a hole in the floor just for it with a grommet. Make it look real nice. I would like for that cable to hug the frame as close as possible also. That way it's just out of the way, or actually go into the frame. Not 100% sure yet. We've got a million ways we can run it, but essentially it just has to get to there. One of the cool things about a mag is it doesn't take power to make it work. So basically, when the motor cranks over, there's no actual current going to this when you light it. It's essentially a ground wire that you run up to your switch. So like your ignition switch, you'll have an eyelet on here going up to the switch, and then from the other side of the switch it'll be going to like some type of ground post. Whenever you cut the ground, unground it, it'll throw fire. Now this post right here, essentially, that's kind of the dumbed down version to put it, and it'll continue to throw fire until you cut the ignition. In order to have an ignition cutoff though, for safety on the rear, this is a 2-way flaming river switch that not only it's set up to kill, this is the actual kill wire that goes up to the mag. I got to rerun that, but not only will it kill the batteries and kill power to everything, but it'll also ground excuse me, the magneto at the same time on its own different channel. That way it's not running loose or anything. Like, say it's on the top end and, you know, throttle's stuck wide open, but the car, you know, is up against the wall or whatever, you know, face forward and the driver's out cold, or someone has to cut the car off for any reason at all, just reach back there and hit the switch and it kills the whole entire thing. Just like what, you know, MSD does or anything else like that. After that, after I get this in, we start running the wiring. I gotta tidy up the water pump, and then once all the wiring's done and this thing can actually fire on its own, it gets to go home. That one is going to come down here in this spot. You'll get used to the air compressor going off every 15 minutes here, it feels like. When hers comes down over here, I'll be able to start looking at some of the tubing and whatnot and see what I can do with what I have right now until I got to go get more. This one, when I get paid on this one, I'll be able to start putting the motor back together. I guess I can show you the heads while I'm at it, while we're on the discussion. There's what I had for heads. These are Super Brodex 11Xs, I believe. Super Brody. This is a spec head for dirt track racing. They had Super, S-U-P-R, embossed in each of the exhaust runners, in each of the intake runners. There's a couple ways, from what I understand at the time being, that you can actually modify the heads for whatever class you're running. So you can either hog out the runners and not touch the head at all and run a specific compression ratio for the motor, or you can not touch the runners, deck the head down, and go that way to raise compression. You know, just kind of however you want to slice your pie, so to speak. I'm not inclined enough to know all the rules on some of the dirt class racing. You know, A mod, B mod, that type of stuff. But this is what happened. Pulled the whole stud, thread, or the whole thread stud and rocker clean out. Which, when I bought these heads, they were already used to begin with. I came in here and just milled down Super out of the runners. Just took it down and just made everything kind of sort of smooth. That's all I did to these. I didn't overport them or anything. I didn't open up any of the chambers or anything. The CC, originally these would have been 65cc, 64cc. When I got them, they were 62 or 60, one of the two. Yeah, they were a little bit damaged when I got them, you know, just little nicks here and there. They were fixable though, so we fixed them and we ran them, knowing that, you know, I'm probably going to need some heads later. Well, the time's come. So the upgrade that I'm going to go to, instead of Brodexes, are going to be the AFR 227s. This head out of the box was stated to flow, what was it? 283, I believe. And the AFR heads I was looking at, they flow about, I think it was 318 or 320 at 600 lift. I've had to look at the paperwork again, but she wants more. The heads were the restricting part, so just upgrading and moving on pretty much. That 4-second pass ain't gonna get itself. Thought I had that rocker laying out here. I guess I don't. Maybe it's in... No, I do not. Okay, it's tucked away in there somewhere. But whatever the case, it didn't break it, bust any of the rockers or nothing, or mess up the trunnions or anything. So probably if Colin's going to run a flat tappet setup, you can, you know, use whatever. If he needs any roller stuff, I got a whole bunch of 1.5 roller rockers laying around everywhere. But that's the story about that one. Back to this. Like I said, full funny car cage. It did. Mount electronics, shifter, seats mounted to the frame underneath the car, seat belts are mounted to the frame, squared up for the driver. We set the motor and transmission in this car in the correct angle, and we had it lit once just to, you know, see how she sound, somewhat get the tune-up in it. This brake pedal had a nagging habit of just falling backwards, so I made a little stop. So this is as much slack that's in this pedal, which I can slide that forwards or backwards to take it up, but when you rest your foot on it, it takes up the slack, and now you have a pedal. So whenever I actually let go of the pedal, it would spring back and fall kind of back over to here. So put that on there. Redid the throttle linkage, so instead of having to go way down underneath there in the throttle stop, that's wide open. Oh. It's adjustable too. You can move it in and out for in case you don't want full throttle. Frank bought these brackets so I can put a little dash piece in. These are all solid. Pretty much just got to run wires to them. Start, ignition, backup lights, water pump, fan, two-step, yada yada yada. It's a pretty nice piece. Learned quite a bit by looking at other people's cars and whatnot, and just seeing what everybody has done. And I've seen some people get hurt because they'd actually be sitting damn near halfway out of the funny car cage. Well, here it's a different story. Any funny car cage work that I do, I'm going to have the driver sitting as far inside of it as I can. Where his head comes out to be, these two crossbars here, they cover his head, and you can't get his head between these two bars here. He's going to have a pad that goes right here also, like Pro Mod cars, so could be even more fixed in the car. That bar right there covers the shoulder, and then I tied it all in, triangulated everything. So he should be pretty good. The other side, he's tucked in on this side too, all the way down to like quarter of the way down his bicep. He's inside this cage. When I think of funny car cage, I think of an actual funny car, you know, and you're tucked way in deep inside the cage where nothing's going to get to you. And that's where I want all my drivers to be anyway, is as far back as I can get them in that cage. Everything fits him perfectly. Everything works real nice. Should be real easy for him just to hop in and go. We're probably going to start this car off at either 3 underdriven or 6 underdriven. I don't have a way to slow this down ignition wise, so I got to slow the blower speed down. Right now it's I believe 10 over, if I remember right. Big block takes more than small block. Mine at 10 over, it wants to rip and snort and piss vinegar. 10 under on this is kind of lazy. It's going to make some steam, but it's nowhere near what it should be. Get up to about 40 over, it should be showing all types of ugly teeth. And again, this is a 2-speed Power Glide, and ahead of it is a 462 big block Chevy. This is a truck motor, a legit truck motor, I believe. I do not remember what series the Brodex heads are. I'll have to talk about. If you guys are interested about more specs on the motor, I'll hit Frank up and ask him about it. I honestly cannot remember what series Brodex heads those are. But to its core, this is a pretty standard big block Chevy build. Like if you were to put some type of tunnel ram or, you know, single plane intake with the, say, 1050 Dominator, just spitballing there, you can run out there and bracket race with this motor all day long. Throw a blower on it, it becomes, you know, Johnny Badass. But we're looking to get this one out this year, just to get him back in the driver's seat and get him acquainted. Basically now he's just waiting on me. This car goes back to him once all the big brain stuff's done, so to speak, I guess you could call it that, all the wiring and whatnot. He's going to fit all the Lexan and everything, make this car real pretty, fit the wing. And he'll be coming back, and I'll have to redesign the parachute mount, because when Dad built it, it wasn't set up for an actual full-blown wing, you know, like what's on mine, spoiler. It's a carbon fiber spoiler also. I'm a little bit jealous about that. But it's pretty nice. This thing's going to be a runner when it's done. Just a matter of just finishing it pretty much at this point. It's getting pretty close to the home stretch. This one, like I said, what I want to do with this is there's a couple of 8.5 races, 26 8.5 races I would really love to try out. And actually, the only one that I know of right now, I'll quit lying to everybody. War in the Woods. I want to go back. I need to get in where I fit in, and 26 8.5 seems like my only chance, because small tires are a little bit out there for me. I've heard some of the times that those draggies were pulling there. Sandy would shit bricks if she knew. So we'll get to that eventually. Oh, there's Plantation. Oh, there's the Lakota. Hi, girl. New addition to the family. Colin's car is the Sonic Cruiser Street and Strip. No trailer grudge car, so to speak. Just wanting to get him into drag racing and whatnot, like not just showing up on the weekend with a truck or anything. I want to get him into it, you know, like what we do. Oh, there's the Lakota dog. Now to go, puppy dog. I am very happy that he decided to go with me on this. I feel pretty proud. Makes me real happy. He trusts me into helping him out with this. But anyway, I'm gonna get this wiring pattern done for Frank's, and I'll show you guys the path, so to speak, and then we'll just go from there. So I say I'm gonna do one thing and I do another entirely, but went ahead and got tired of looking at it. Was digging out all the paperwork and whatnot, and said, oh, the hell with it. Reran the ground cutoff for the mag, and I got a wiring loom holder, kind of like what I got on my front fender, made out of aluminum. Goes up over the quarter panel, or up over the tub, I'm sorry. And it goes down inside on this side. And it gets put in, where'd it go? Right out there. Wires are going to be loomed up, and there's going to be little eyelets that hold them all in place. It's going to run down this rail right here, like I said. Either I'm going to have some of these holding the mesh loom down in here, or if he's going to run I believe it's called a kick plate on here. Run down, cover up the wires, and 2 more eyelets. Keep this snug up against here, out of the way. And goes up over the dash, runs right through the middle of the firewall right behind the mag, and hooks into the mag. So next is probably going to be the ignition wire itself, the ignition ground, so to speak, coming off the switch panel next. Get that one ran. It's going to come up and down around over here. And just something I learned on my car. I use that bar to get out. Well, I hate wrapping my hand around it and grabbing a hold of the wire loom at the same time, so make everything just come over here this way, besides all the electric stuff's on the passenger side of the car anyway. I try to tuck the wiring up as best as I can. That way when you look inside, there's not just wires and shit everywhere. This panel is going to probably be the most pain in the rear to do. It's either going to have an opening right here or right here. for the wires to go through and back behind it, so they can be tucked back behind and hidden from when you first look in the car. And go up and down and run in a separate loom on their own, but down the same path. Just trying to keep this as clean as I can. I would like to, this weekend, be able to have this car crank over all on its own. That'll be, I'm going in the right direction. Yeah, that's about it. We're going to get back at it and see what else I can get into. And before I leave, I'm going to attempt to have at least the wiring schematic done. That way it kind of puts these boxes more in perspective for you. I didn't actually get to the schematic part, so forgive me. But I did do something else, though. So I ran the route for the wires, and I used these to keep the slack up so they're not just flying loose everywhere, because all the wires are on a spool. And I need my camera assistant over here to hold the camera, because this is the first for this car. Grounded, so it won't jump any spark. Let's say right about mirror. Panel's hanging loose so I can get to the wires. I think that's the first time ever since factory this car's ever done that. So instead of doing what I said I was going to do, I decided to start wiring the car. So I think Frank's going to be tickled. Video once as I jack up the gator clip. I think Frank's going to be tickled to see that in the morning. What do you think? I asked you a question there.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you didn't specify if you're talking to her or not, so.
Well, I wasn't talking to you, that's for sure. Wow, demonetized. So, yep, tomorrow, or not tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, later tomorrow, or the next day, okay, we'll continue this. See if I can start running even more wires. Yeah, I know, the zoom kind of sucks on this. But yep. Getting started on the wiring on this and see if we can get this thing out the door. And I'll get back to that later. So, yeah, we'll get back. I went ahead and tore my motor down on TikTok Live. Found a couple of issues with this thing, but nothing that can't be fixed. We managed to, well, I did. We walked, it's in the focus, we walked every single main, hoping that nothing that, you know, line hung can fix. And I broke, at the same time I'm believing, broke the oil pump pickup off. And it literally, the tabs are still there tight, it just rattled and broke off. I'm assuming what happened was on the last pass, there was no nitrous on the setup at all. It was just blower only. And 3/4 of the way down, I pulled the rocker stud clean out of the head. And when that happened, we had about 24 to 26 pounds of boost in the chambers, or going to the motor. And with one cylinder not firing, threw everything kind of off balance and started to chatter the mains. And then whenever that happened, all the vibration and whatnot just up and broke the pickup off. All the bearings look good. Rod bearings have some wear on them. I expected that after 4 years of hard punishment. But no like major chunks or anything, and the journals on the crank aren't tore up. Actually, the crank looks brand new. The cam bearings still look good. Nothing out of the ordinary. This front one looks like it has a little bit of wear on it. I know probably can't see that too well, but there's no like high spot in the bearing. and the cam didn't like clunk around or nothing on the last one or anything like that. So I think the cam bearings are still good. All the main webs check out good. Hell, even the main bearings themselves, man, those look damn near brand new out of the box. So I think I got lucky on all that. Rotating assembly looks good, so we're going to keep on going. I think we are going to upgrade these caps. These are the steel caps that come with it. I believe these are not the billet caps that you can get, so we'll upgrade to those and maybe talk to Bob about making these, either leave them at 7/16 or upgrade them to 1/2 inch. I know the little M comes with 7/16 studs, splated mains, and billet caps, but they don't have any issues, so something to talk about. Right now, I'm just going to get this thing all cleaned up and get it ready to load up so we can take it to the machine shop tomorrow and say, hey, you know, this is all the stuff I broke. How much to fix, and how about a solution for not happening again. I don't want to be put in a bind like this again. The one thing that's my big concern as far as meat wise, I would love to make it to the Wyco race, the Flying H, no prep. It does not look like it's going to be in the cards. So basically the big meet that I'm concerned about more than anything is just hanging out in my dad's old parking lot up in Michigan at the end of June. And everything else is extracurricular, so to speak. But anyway, aside from that, everything looks good. Like I said, I didn't see any cracks, worse for wear, or anything on here. I did a ring test on my crank, you know, the wrench, and check each of the throws, and each of them sung their song, so not too worried about that. All the rods and detonation, everything looks good on the piston. None of the rings are tore up. So I'm going to chalk this up to me until I, you know, talk to Bob a little bit about it and go from there. I'm starting to think that the rocker coming off was the issue, why it beat the living hell out of the lower end. We're going to upgrade to, try to upgrade if I can get one, a billet oil pump. I believe that the billet pump, the pickup's actually made in the pump itself, so I don't have to worry about any issues with that anymore. And then get back on this little girl and get the rotating assembly back, get it thrown in here, and get this thing, get this girl rolling again. Colin's been more than patient with everything. Got to swing the shocks in so we can clear the screws. Yeah, other than that, this girl's gonna be, she's gonna be a fun little car, that's for sure. Still need to get a converter, but as soon as we figure out a cam, we'll order a converter for it. There's a lot of this thing I would like to do still. You know, cut away some of the front end to go tubular, but that doesn't look like it's going to be in the cards right now, so hurry up and wait on that. I'll just put away some money and buy pieces as I go. And this one, I do have with me his magneto cap. I got to fix a small spot. It has a crack, it has a broken piece off of it. I think it got damaged on shipping, but let me see if I can fix it before we send it back. And get his wires routed. And maybe throw a little bit of fuel on this girl and see if she'll light. I know my stuff's been sitting around for almost a year, but I think it'll be okay. But right now, I'm gonna get this thing all cleaned up and whatnot, and get her ready to go back to Bob's and say, hey, you know, what can you do to help me out here, buddy? I'm gonna get it back. I'll take a ball hone to the cylinder, see if I can clean those up a little bit, and I guess I'll start putting a rotating assembly back in it. All right, I'm gonna set this down, get rolling on this stuff. As you've seen on the video, I went through and I completely cleaned off every single mating surface I can get to, minus the bell housing. That one will get cleaned off and prepped last whenever we actually go time to put the motor in the car. Wasn't any major things to be concerned about as far as like just the mating surfaces. Like I said, no along the main webs and everything, no cracks or nothing, so everything checked out good there. I went ahead and checked every single main stud hole. No cracks leading over the cylinders or nothing, or no cracks leading from anywhere around the O-rings into the cylinder. So we're good on that. There's a couple of spots. This happened when we lost the head gasket the first time on both sides. It stained the cylinder walls. That was the worst one out of all of them. Oh, that one was. So it stained the cylinder walls, but the motor's never smoked or anything. So when we get it back from Bob when he gets it all fixed up, I'm gonna see if I can take a ball hone and just kind of chase some of that out a little bit more. I'm pretty sure he'd be a little bit happier with me on that. So the next part, I'm gonna thread chase or clean out all the threads that we use to bolt things up to, like water pump, timing cover. Chase all the head bolts real quick. The only one I won't chase is this one. This is a pipe thread. I'll just make sure that's cleaned out and whatnot. Blow all the holes out, and then after that, it'll be time to actually lacquer the whole motor. Actually lacquer clean everything. So yep, I'm gonna get right to that. And when I hit everything with lacquer thinner and clean everything off, not only will the paint go off, but all the dirt and shit will get off it too. So this thing will look pretty close to brand new, roughly. I tell myself that, but then again, I'll be lying to you guys as well. So get this thing all cleaned up and get all the oil off of it. Don't know how humid it's going to be or whatnot next couple of days, or tomorrow, I'm sorry, until tomorrow. So I might just take a really thin layer of Larry Lube. I'll fill you guys in on what that is later, but just coat the cylinders. Just make sure that doesn't rust out, and we'll go from there. All the O-rings checked out pretty good. I didn't see any low spots or anything that was noticeable, so looks like we're holding good on that. Won't have to have it re-O-ringed. Other than that, I'm gonna get to it. Just want to put this out there to some people that might say something in the comment section, but as you can see right here, I used a really fine, like worn out, there's already a fine grit, but it was an old cleaning Scotch-Brite disc when you saw me do this. All these marks you see right here, it's not like I dug into it, I'm just kind of scuffing it, The reason why I do that is because everything gets put on with the Permatex silicone. It's just what I've always used, the black stuff. And I found that if it has just a little bit of like a coarse, area to work with, it tends to seal a little bit better. A little bit more of a pain in the ass to get off when it's time to pull everything apart, but at least you know it's not going to leak. So if you can just see all like the markings and whatnot, they're not as bad as they look. Shadow kind of messes it all up. I did the top right here, and then whenever I'm done doing the bottom part where the oil pan's at, I'm going to give you guys a better look so you can see what I mean. So, got everything thread chased and whatnot. I just finished blowing all the holes out that I just did on top here and the fuel pump block off. I want to show you guys what we use to actually blow all this out, like cleaning wise. Most people use like wash tank oil and whatnot. This is what we use. I don't know if you can see that or not, but get it out of Riley's. This is what we've always used to clean parts. Works decent, somewhat cheap to get. They sell in a 5-gallon container. It's me personally, if you have the 1 can already, and then later you're going to be doing a whole like really big job, like complete teardown like what we did with Collins, and you want to wash all the parts off and whatnot, it's more cost efficient to spend like the extra, I think it's 20 bucks, I believe, to get the 5-gallon container and just keep refilling your 1 container. You have to ask them because they don't actually have it out front. It's actually in the back of the store. General purpose lacquer thinner, 5700, Master Pro. Like I said, we just refill this and keep on going. The main reason why I did all this is just pretty sure everybody will understand when I say it. The more stuff I get out of this and cleaned out that I can get to, the better job that the hot tank would do at the machine shop, which is, I know the hot tank does a whole lot, and it'll probably just go ahead and strip everything off this thing and I don't have to worry about it. But it's just, I'm superstitious, I guess. The more I do for my machine shop, the better I feel. I don't like to be that guy that brings them like a 56-year-old motor that I just dug out of a swamp, out of the back of a truck that's been sunk for the last 20 years, and say, there you go, rebuild it please. Call me when it's done. I want it to be orange in color when I go come and get it. No, we don't do that in this shop. I make sure that everybody actually sends my machinist a clean block and clean parts to work with. And then in turn you get clean stuff back. I mean, you're gonna get it clean when you get it back anyway. It's just moral, it's just a moral thing, It's just, you're doing right by your machinist by not bringing him a load of crap he has to dig all the gunk off of and whatnot. Spend the time, clean it, and then get to work on it, you know what I mean? I don't understand how people do that. I've seen blocks on Bob's floor that look like they literally been pulled out of the swamp. Yeah, I gotta do a bore on that, and line hone and whatnot. And it's like, oh, after you get past the 30 pounds of crap that's already on it. One thing I do want to say about Dart SHP blocks, and I'm pretty sure every other aftermarket block out there, if you're buying one of these, every important hole is a blind hole. So like where the oil pan bolts on, the main caps, timing cover, fuel pump cover, excuse me, water pump, where it bolts on, and the head studs, or bolts if you're going to that, they are all blind holes. In other words, anybody doesn't know what the term is, it stops. Like it doesn't go into like a jacket, like a water jacket or anything. So on a factory small block Chevy or 400, when you're putting in your head studs, you'll notice that the studs go right into the water jackets. What will you do to fix that? Because if you don't do anything, water's going to come up through the stud. So we use Permatex. I'll show you guys a tube real quick. This is what we use. Again, O'Reilly's. This is what we use on the ends of the studs, on the, excuse me, where the heads go in, just a little bit around the threads, thread them in, wipe the excess off the deck, keep going. And then whenever it sits over like a night or two, studs are sealed, and then, you know, torque to spec and make sure everything else has moly lube on it. For this block, when you put the studs in, make sure you have your assembly lube, like your moly lube, you know. Make sure it's on the stud going into the block. It's not gonna bottom out on the bottom of the block. It's just whenever you go to torque it into the threads, you wanna make sure you have something that's, you know, that'll slip against it. You get what I'm saying? So, like I said, I just blew all the holes out that I just thread chased, and it was a thread chaser, it was not a tap. And I just wanted to clear what you guys see me do with the whiz wheel. It walked off on me somewhere again, forgive me. Oh yeah, it went to Fort Lauderdale. So this is a really wore out, it's a Scotch-Brite whiz wheel, you know, disc cleaner, what we call it. I chose the most wore out one that we had. And this, you can't really see it on camera, but this is a pretty fine grit. It's not like, you know, I'm trying to sand off, you know, 30 thousandths at one go, you know. All I did was just lightly go over where the mounting surfaces are at, like the oil pan, you know, timing cover, whatnot. I'm not taking any meat off. As you've seen, the sparks were pretty minimal. Just getting all the thick gunk off of it, so to speak. I went over with the razor blade first, get all the big stuff off. I took a really, again, wore out Scotch-Brite pad. Just reference here. There you go. Wore out ones. Dirty lacquer thinner. We have a can that we wash our hands in. I know, we're healthy. Get all the excess silicone off that's left over, all the residue. Wipe everything off, then hit it with the whiz wheel. Lighting is throwing it off in the camera, I noticed. It's not as bad as it looks on here. And if anything, when you put the silicone on, what I've noticed, it helps, it bites in the block a little bit better. Block's gonna be bone dry, and we're gonna have clean lacquer thinner. Wipe it off, and then we put our silicone on. That's as good as a grip as you're gonna get, along with the the rubber cork gasket that we surprised didn't have one on it. Whatever gasket you use. It helps seal against the block to the gasket. And then the other side, the oil pan, I have not cleaned off yet. Gonna be the same way, whizzed off, and then clean lacquer thinner. That way, whenever it goes on the opposite side with silicone, just a light. On this side, it'll be a light layer, just like the other one, like, you know, call it good. When it seals, you know, it won't leak around the oil pan. If it leaks, I'm gonna take it up to block pressure, which we're gonna know for a fact when this one's back together again, how good that burn down tank's working. I got some pretty big tubes that go to the trunk, so I can actually purge off, you know, whatever pressure's on the motor. We'll go over that later when everything's back together. But it's a good seal. I did it to the front also, where the intake seals on the top on both sides. Blower cars are notorious for if they ever push out an intake gasket, which they will, 90% of the time they go after the weakest length. I noticed that the weakest link, 90% of the time it's not where a water jacket is, like the very front of the head or the rear of the head where the water ports are at. They go from the intake to the head. It doesn't really blow out there. I had the very front runners one time blow across over that. but most of the time it's just like the middle runners, they go first. They normally, most times that it's blue on me anyway, they blow into the oil, you know, they blow into the, down into the lifter valley. The heads I were running, it was a very thin thickness of metal on the head. So it had a better chance of blowing out there than it did on top of the head, where there was this much meat to work with versus the bottom of the head into the lifter valley. When it does that, you'll have maybe 24, 26, 30 pounds of boost trying to push out somewhere in the block. It tends to try to go after the silicone first because, hey, it's already right there. So trying to give that silicone a little extra bite, it helps. Looking at it in the long run, you're only pushing off the inevitable. It's going to happen sooner or later, but you're just giving yourself a little more time. By checking your intake bolts over and over again, like every week to every other week when you're done running, like get back to the shop and go over everything, just kind of, you know, retorque the intake bolts, you should be fine. If you are Gucci and you have your heads actually O-ringed, props to you. You don't have to deal with this shit, you know, ever again. And if you do, it's very rarely. But for running like a Felpro or Mr. Gasket, you know, black gasket, this is what you're gonna have to deal with. The intake that I run now, it's not a Wyand Street intake or, you know, Kreger Street intake. It's actually a TBS competition intake, so it's pretty heavy for what it is. So I think it has a little bit more difficulty trying to actually shove gaskets out because the intake is that much heavier. But back to this, all the markings that you see here and probably see better here, they're not as deep as they look. It's just like a rough scuff, so to speak. What I found, and most of my motors, even my nitrous motor, when I do this and put silicone on, it tends to hold off for quite a lot longer. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to fill up that can again because it's empty, and I'm going to turn this motor over. I'm going to get all the big stuff off I can first. It's like a air siphon gun. Go around, half trigger it, you know, get all the big stuff off. Then I'm going to turn the motor over sideways, spray down a cylinder, turn the other way, cylinder, turn it back up straight again. I'm going to go underneath and get as much big stuff underneath as in this. Get as much of this out as I can and let it drop off. And then whenever I flip it over, it'll be just a matter of, you know, hitting it from the top. Mainly it's going to be like a back and forth thing until it looks as clean as I can get it. Paper towels, wipe everything off best as I can. And this should be as dry as a bone when it's done. Might take a little bit of Larry lube to the cylinders, not really for certain yet. Don't really want it to rot overnight, which on humid nights it can do that. You'll see a lot of machine shops have like fans on it or something like that to keep the to keep the moisture out of the air. That way it doesn't rot everything in the garage in the shop. But to save this one up, like I said, maybe a light coat of oil in the cylinders, just a finger coat, and then we're going to push that off and we're going to do the crank next. Crank and rods, I'm going to bring the whole rotating assembly and this, obviously the block, down to Bob's and pretty much explain what happened on the last pass, just to clarify, are we thinking about this the right way on what actually happened here, what we can do to make this better if it needs it. Me personally, I wouldn't mind running the billet caps if it means I can get away with, you know, more, and keep going. Other than that, like I said, you're just doing your machinist a good courtesy of actually taking your time, cleaning off all your shit, and overall just being a decent person. If you don't have any cleaning materials like what we have, it's fine, whatever, you know. I understand. I mean, getting most of the grime out, you know, by hand, that would be a pretty decent help for your machinist, but you know, whatever the case may be. That's just my view on things. I have a lot of respect for Bob and what he's done for there's a rag right there, why didn't you tell me? I have a lot of respect for Bob, what he's done for my family and my friends, and I try to do what I can for him whenever I can. That's about it. That I don't like holding, like maneuvering a grimy block, you know, in and out of the truck when we get there and whatnot. I sure as shit know he probably doesn't like it. So whatever I can save on his end and my end. But anyway, car's covered up. I'm gonna knock this down with lacquer thinner, get as much oil as I can out of it, get this all nice and dried off, and we're gonna scoop this out, bring a crankshaft over, and start cleaning that up. As you can see, what I was talking about, it's not that terribly bad. When it comes to the when it comes to where I machine the stuff off, this is about as clean as it's gonna get. Let's say not too terribly bad. Let me set you down for a second. Okay. The rest will be able to get out of the paper towel, but this is what I meant. I want to take a ball hone to get the stains out of the cylinders. I lost a head gasket. See if I can clean it up a little bit. Yeah, that lacquer thinner and the air pressure do not mess around. Yeah. The block's pretty much done. Got the main caps to do next. Over here. Gotta get them all cleaned off and whatnot. And the studs cleaned up. Definitely gotta get the 30 pounds of silicone off of that. Then quick spray down on the rods, the pistons, the crank. So not too bad. Whenever you get all the oil and stuff off, you'll actually be able to see some things that you might have missed or wasn't able to see. And so far I see nothing bad, so all good. Well, I'm going to flip her over and get the main caps all washed up, and then we're going to wheel this off to the side and get it ready to get thrown in the truck and off to the next stuff. Just want to touch base with everyone on this. Since I sprayed this down with lacquer thinner, I mean, I'm only going to be moving it tomorrow, but I don't know how long it's going to be until I get the block back and any type of bearings to put back in it when I do get it back, so I can put this crank in. So just to kind of preserve it, this is our patent pending Larry Lube. That's just like I believe it's a 40 weight, like VR140 and STP oil treatment mix. Just gonna go along and on the journals. Doesn't take a whole lot, that's for sure. And just, well, it's not gonna take a whole lot because I'm almost out, but I gotta mix up another batch. Just go around. I'm only doing just the journals. Not really give a shit about the throws, honestly. Just where the bearing rides is where I'm most concerned about. So it's a little bit messy, but this is our second alternative to Cosmoline, which we don't have any of that nasty shit laying around, so this is about as good as it's going to get. Just go around. Any type of bearing is going to be, because when this bitch is ready to go back together, I don't want to try to, have to spend an hour or two with a memory cloth trying to clean all this up. I just want to get after it and go. As soon as I get the crank set in, then I can torque it down, and then that'll be the end of that. I won't have to worry about it rotting away on me. And if I do get the crank in, more than likely the same night, I'm gonna have rods and pistons back in it too. So I don't know if the journal should be going without anything for any length of time at all. But yeah, just a little PSA, if you will. Just make sure to coat the journals with something that's gonna last, so it doesn't rust on you. Well, I thought I was going to have to wash the rods and pistons, but the amount of oil that's actually left on them is like a surface coat, so I was just going to leave them alone. Just something to keep them from rusting. It wasn't as bad as this. So we got this little girl, she's ready to rock and roll and go to the machine shop. Cranking rods and pistons are right here, and tomorrow's just a quick adventure there, and then we'll just check back with you guys and go from there. If you like what you see, like and subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment. Like I said, I will go through comments and everything just like I do on my TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. So like I said, like, follow, subscribe, everything. And we're gonna, it's slow and steady so far this year, but you gotta start somewhere, and quite frankly, we're pretty much starting all over again with this little girl. So rock on, guys. Like I said, we'll be rocking and rolling until we can't do it no more.